Silence in negotiation is rarely neutral, even though it looks empty on the surface. A pause, a lack of response, or a moment where nothing is said almost always communicates something. The difficulty is that silence does not explain itself. It invites interpretation, and that interpretation often says more about the listener than about the person who remains quiet. One reason silence feels uncomfortable is that it breaks an unspoken rule of conversation, that speech should flow. Especially in professional settings, responsiveness is associated with competence, confidence, and cooperation. When that flow stops, people begin to search for meaning. Is this agreement, resistance, confusion, disapproval? Silence can mean all of these, or none of them, at the same time. Silence often appears in moments where people genuinely do not know how to react. Being surprised or shocked or even momentarily sprachlos in German is a common trigger. In hierarchical situations, silence may reflect uncertainty or fear of saying the wrong thing. In unfamiliar environments or new groups, people sometimes say less, simply because trust has not yet formed. The silence is not strategic, it's protective. What makes silence powerful is what tends to happen next. From my perspective, silence rarely remains empty for long. Someone usually feels compelled to fill it. They start talking, clarifying, adjusting, or adding information. The discomfort created by the pause pushes people into motion. Many participants in training describe exactly this pattern. They feel the urge to speak, simply to make the situation feel normal again. This dynamic becomes visible in negotiations after an offer has been made. A proposal is put on the table, followed by no immediate reaction. The silence hangs. The other side begins to talk, sometimes explaining, sometimes lowering expectations, sometimes improving the offer without being asked. Nothing's been said, yet the negotiation has moved. Silence can also work in everyday conversations. Not having an immediate response does not always mean indifference or rejection. It can simply mean that there is nothing useful to add in that moment. Yet silence is often misread as a problem to be fixed. People feel they have to respond, even when waiting might serve them better. Silence is therefore less about technique and more about tolerance. Tolerance for pauses, for not knowing immediately what to say, and for letting the other side carry the discomfort for a moment. Many people discover that silence is hardest not because it's risky, but because it feels socially awkward. One simple way to practice this is to resist the urge to respond instantly. When an offer is made or a question is asked, allowing a brief pause creates space to think, and often reveals more than an immediate reply would. Another is to notice emotional triggers. Moments where silence feels unbearable usually say something about pressure, hierarchy, or fear of judgment rather than about the negotiation itself. Silence can also be practiced away from the negotiation table. In everyday conversations, not filling every gap helps build comfort with pauses. Over time, this changes how silence is experienced, from something that must be fixed to something that can simply exist. Used this way, silence stops being mysterious. It becomes part of the rhythm of negotiation, sometimes signaling agreement, sometimes uncertainty, sometimes nothing at all, but rarely without effect.